a try late in the closing stages, but Hazy Daisy won it well, eased down by Mayhew, beat him, boom, boom, then came to move a Hollywood Madam Kisser, 5 bold action tree. Well, they've got a decent horse on their hands here, the Space Family.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Racing Across America is sponsored by Sakatoga Stable, home of Funnyside and 'Tis the Law. Be part of Sakatoga's next great story with ownership opportunities now available in our yearlings. Get on the bus at sakatoga.com. We'd like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine open now through December, featuring great racing, including the King's Plate coming up in August, Turf Champions Day with the Woodbine Mile in September, and much, much more. Woodbine Racing, great racing north of the border. Welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. I am Seth Merrill. Thanks for joining us. Later on, we'll recap some of the stakes action from yesterday and more. But as you saw at the top of the show, Sakatoga jumps on board as a sponsor of some of the programming here on the network. And so to kind of kick that off, we're happy to have the main player, Sakatoga, over the years, Jack Knowlton, join us. Jack, good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
As folks saw at the top of the show, you got a couple of nice yearlings. I was looking up some information on them yesterday. Bought them at the sale up at the New York Bred Sale up in Saratoga this summer. We'll talk a little bit more about those two in a few. But first, you and I were talking before we went on the air. You're headed out to the Breeders' Cup next week. And like everybody else, you're looking forward to the Classic?
Absolutely. I think it's the deepest Classic that I can remember. I mean, I was saying to Shannon earlier, I can't remember the last Breeders' Cup I missed. It's been at least 30 years, and this one's really special, I think.
The Classic is turning out to be a classic, no pun intended, with the lineup they have there. And as usual, the 2 days will be a lot of fun. And I've never gotten out to Del Mar. I'd love to get out there.
That's a wonderful venue, where the surf meets the turf, or vice versa, and the weather's always great. Wonderful restaurants out there, so we really enjoy that. So I think it's like the third or fourth time out there.
Yeah, I just went out to LA for a family visit 3 or 4 weeks ago. Made my first visit to Santa Anita. That's a great venue too. I can see why a lot of people think that's a perfect venue for the Breeders' Cup, because it's scenic. The turf and the dirt courses play to the Breeders' Cup, but man, it's a huge facility that I think plays out to a Breeders' Cup day.
It really does. I mean, obviously, Churchill is the other place, and it hasn't been there in a long time. But going back 20 years plus, I know and obviously they can handle any kind of crowd there. And
we'll see the new Belmont. I'm sure it'll be back in New York sooner rather than later once we open up down there. Looking forward to that as well. Let's turn our attention now a little Sakatoga. First, for folks who aren't familiar, over the years, and we'll talk a little bit more about Funnyside and 'Tis the Law, for a partnership your size to have a couple of horses like that over the years, just phenomenal. But talk a little bit about how you got into the game yourself, and then the formation of Sakatoga Stable.
Well, I never went to a horse race until I graduated from undergraduate school. And my roommate and I took a drive up to Vernon Downs, and that was my first horse race. And then graduate school in Albany, and became familiar with Saratoga. and got involved in harness racing. Frankie Coppola Jr., he was a trainer then, and he was a driver that won almost 6,000 races in his career. So we had a little partnership and five guys, and called ourselves a Breakfast Club Stable because we go to breakfast on Saturday morning after training. So I did that from 82 until 93, and one of the guys got sick, one moved to Texas, so we sold the last couple horses. And the next year in 95, I was up in my hometown, Sackett's Harbor, about 60 miles north of Syracuse, and with a barbecue and beer. And one of the guys said, why don't we buy a thoroughbred? So they'd been down and gone to the flat track and loved it. And I said, I know a trainer at that point, Timmy Kelly, I had gotten to know a little bit. And said, put in $5,000 a piece for $30,000, and we'll try and buy a horse. I figured I'm never going to hear anything from these guys. So what do I hear? A week later, one of them calls up and says, well, we're in. We're going to do it. One of them, a school teacher, Mark Phillips, he did it and didn't even dare tell his wife. The other one, Harold Kring, who a big contractor, he said, I'd be better off burying that $5,000 in my backyard in a tin can than spending it on this horse. But in any event, we wanted to do it, and Timmy found us a horse. We named it Sackett 6 after the six of us. Our high school colors, maroon and gray, were our silks, and Sackatoga, combination of Saratoga and Sackett's Harbor. So that's how we got started. And Sackett 6, he won a race, and he had an injury. We did surgery, came back. He won another race. He got hurt again, and we were going to retire him, but Timmy said, well, it was just a kind of a straight fracture. I think if we just give him rest, he'll come back. So he came back, and he won another race. So at that point, I was hooked, and I knew that I wanted to do a lot more than those guys would ever want to do. So we ended up, I got the infamous Gus Williams was one of the partners, Dave Mann, and Lou Titterton, who had been a longtime friend of mine who lived in the Capital District, and Eric Datner, who was one of Barclay's owners, and he was looking for a partnership to get into. So we had 10 of us, and the 8th horse that we owned turned out to be Funny Side. $22,000 purchase at Saratoga at the yearling sale, New York bred, and we didn't buy him. Tony Everhart from Florida, who's a pin hooker down there, he bought him, and Barclay saw him going down to Gulfstream in November, and Tony said, I know that your owners, Sackatoga people, like the New York breds. I got one I think is really going to be nice, and it's $50,000. We didn't have any $50,000. So then come January, Barclay's there again. Tony says, I really like this horse, but $60,000 now. So we didn't have the money. We had bought a mare from one of Barclay's owners who was too cheap to send the horse to Florida to race. And Barclay kept telling him, this horse can win if we take it to Florida on the turf. But they didn't. So anyway, we had the horse, goes into a $62,500 claimer, wins a race, gets claimed, and all of a sudden we've got money. This is in February, $75,000, and as they say, the rest is history.
That's great. And now that we've come to Funny Side, I was going to ask how soon in the partnership. It was very soon, clearly. Funny Side eventually named the 2003 champion 3-year-old and Eclipse winner. I had to pull it up, the win in the Kentucky Derby by Funny Side. We can take a look at that. And again, just an incredible for a partnership your size. Then hearing that story, just incredible. Funny Side goes on for a career, 11 wins and 38 starts, $3.5 million. Just talk about the ride he took you on.
It was crazy. And, stuff that wasn't planned, going, and it's our legacy, going to the Derby in the school bus. I mean, that happened because we were too cheap to pay $3,600 to go 3 miles from the Galt House to the track, and we got the school bus for about $600. So that's how that happened. And after that,
and that became iconic for you guys.
Oh, absolutely. Then for Preakness, we had 2 school buses, and then by the time we got to the Belmont, we had 4. So, and when Tiz went to the Derby, we had 2 school buses during COVID because you had to have everybody separated. So that's what I said. That's the only time that I'm going to bring out the school bus, and we did.
And as I say, that became an iconic part of it. 2007, he was a gelding, so he kept racing him, obviously, and it was great. He went out a winner at Finger Lakes. He won the Wadsworth Memorial, and we go out there a couple times every year to cover a little stakes day out there in the spring and in the fall. And it's fun to walk around the facility and see pictures of Funnyside. They memorialize his visits up there. But he goes out a winner, and was it within the last year or two? Didn't you have a Funnyside Day up there?
We did. We had on the 4th of July, 2 years ago, that we did that. We really like to support them. They're good people out there, and it's a challenge to get people to a small track like that. But we had a great day there, and when we had Funnyside out there, it was the biggest crowd that they'd had since opening day, we were told. And it was exciting. We didn't really plan that was going to be his last race. We had a busload of people from Sackett's Harbor that came, and at the end of the day, we said, what more can he do?
Yeah.
I mean, he deserves to go out. And then for a couple of years, he was a saddle pony for Barkley, and kind of got tired of that. And he went to the Kentucky Horse Park, where he was the favorite for more than a decade. And actually, we're going to have a statue of him. It's going to be unveiled a couple of days before Derby next year at Kentucky Horse Park.
Yeah,
so
very
we're
good.
very excited about that.
Yeah, he was clearly a fan favorite. And again, being a gelding, 38 starts and just phenomenal. I should have pulled up the replay and looking here at his PPs. It was the Jockey Club in 2004 where Tom Durkin kind of says on the turn. And if you were watching the race, you're thinking, oh, he's all done.
He's
he goes,
stopping.
And boom, down the stretch. It was an incredible race.
I bust on Tom about that periodically because Jose was giving him a breather. I mean, Jose knew the horse, and it was at a point in the race. I mean, of course, we're thinking, oh God, what's going on?
Yeah, if you're watching the race, you're thinking, oh, he's done.
He's done, right?
Yeah.
And then he rallies between horses, and then Tom pulls out his gutsy gelding call again. So that was great. That was one of the most exciting races that he had. But he took us on a journey that. Anybody in horse racing would love to be on. It's just so hard to get there. And the nice thing about being a gelding was that we enjoyed him. He raced for 6 years. And other than his 4-year-old year when he had a problem with his back, he was good. He won stakes races. I mean, at 6, we sent him up to Woodbine, and he won a stake up there on Canada Day.
Yeah.
And that was exciting, too.
It was a phenomenal story, again, to be a partnership your size, and then to hear the origin story. Like, we didn't have the money, we fall into this horse, wins a purse, and get enough money to get the horse. Again, for a partnership your size to wind up with a player like that, win the Kentucky Derby, over $3 million. And you think, well, that was maybe the pinnacle, but no, 'tis the law. Back a few years ago, he was a Saratoga 2018 purchase, won his debut, then went on to win the Champagne. And I pulled up a replay here for us to look at. He also won the Travers in that weird COVID year where it was tough to get folks to the track and whatnot. But give us some thoughts on 'tis the law.
Well, if it hadn't been a COVID year, who knows what he might have accomplished.
Yeah, exactly.
We had him geared to, go to the Derby.
This is phenomenal.
The first Saturday in May, and unfortunately, with COVID, everything got moved. They made it the first Saturday in September, and the Belmont came up first, 1 1/8. He won that rather easily, and then we had the Travers, and saw I think like the 5th or 6th fastest Travers, and he just ran away with it. Showed that he was really some special horse. Yeah. We had after we won the Holy Bull in Florida, which was the prep for the Florida Derby. We had a lot of interest from the breeders.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it ended up we did a deal with Coolmore even before the Florida Derby, which showed that they saw some special talent
Yeah.
there and were willing to jump. And it was, they're the best of the best. And we're just so happy that we were able to have a thing that it was disappointing is we had in our agreement with them that he'd have to run at 4 as long as he was sound and running, fast. And unfortunately, he had some severe bone bruising that showed up right at the end of December. Robin was on him one morning and came back off the track at Palm Meadows and said he's just not right. Immediately, did some X-rays and found that the bone bruising, you probably have to have 3 months off and then another 3 months to get ready to run. And you're in the summer, and so we said let's retire him and let him become a stallion. And it turned out he's a pretty good stallion.
Yeah, I was going to say that second career has turned out pretty well. Before we went on the air, you were talking about you've bought some Tiz the Laws, and he's turned out to be a nice little sire. Again, it was a limited career, but 6 wins and 9 starts, $2.7 million for Tiz the Law. Just phenomenal. Tiz the Law, a New York bred, Funny Side, a New York bred. And again, we were talking before we went on the air, and I was going to bring this up anyway. You guys are big supporters of the New York program.
We're kind of the poster child,
Yeah,
I think, for the New York bred program. A lot of people say that, after Funny Side won the Kentucky Derby, it gave the breeding program in New York a huge boost.
Yeah.
Because if you can do that, you can do anything.
I always say Fio Rito kind of changed things when he broke through the gate and then got loaded back in. Came from the finger lace with Les Hewlett and won the Whitney. But then the extra boost came from Funny Side, no question.
Yeah. Yep. And, I think, as we see what is happening now, where they're embellishing the New York bred program. I mean, we have a great stakes program. The Stallion Stakes Series is great, and we can talk about that when we talk about one of the offerings that we have. But next year it's going to get even better, where the 2-year-old New York breds are going to run for open company purses, and then the following year, all of the New York breds. So I think, what we're seeing is, a major effort by NYRA and by the Breeding Fund and the breeders to understand that the future of New York racing in many ways is becoming more and more dependent on the New York crop. And I showed you earlier
that was interesting.
Of all of the states last year, breeding was down, except in New York, and it was up 4.8% in terms of the number of breedings.
Yeah, Jockey Club came out with the stats for last year, and overall full crop down 3.4%, but in New York it went up, and I think that is a reflection of things. Had Naj Thompson on, had Tracy Egan on this summer up at Saratoga, and they were both talking about how the program has moved forward, and again that the enhancements coming up next year with the equal purse money and whatnot. And as I say, you guys have been players in that right along, and yesterday was a great example of it. Pretty much all day long down in New York, nice stakes for the New York breds. And I always say, if you get a nice New York bred, as demonstrated by the 2 we talked about already, you have so many options because these stakes days are parsed out throughout the year, and you can pick your spots there or go out and face some open company and make money as well.
Yeah. Well, it was 2-3 weeks ago, whenever it was, we had 2 New York breds win Grade 1 races.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever happened before.
You're probably right. Yeah.
I mean, that was impressive.
Yeah. And again, it's fun to watch the New York breds when they do go out and face the open company. Let's talk a little bit about, again, you're jumping in with some partnership because you got a couple of horses that you're going to offer. If folks think, hey, they want to get into the game, or you've been into the game already and you see these and maybe you want to jump in with the folks at Sakatoga. First of all, this is a little bit new for you, kind of offering horses in this fashion.
Yeah, we bought 5 horses this year, which is, at least 2 more than we typically do. 3 of those sold out, and we have a few shares left in 2 of the horses. One a Constitution filly and one an Honest Mischief colt. And we said, let's see if we can increase membership. We have, and a lot of people wouldn't realize this, but we have well over 100 people that are involved in Sakatoga Stable.
And you handed me a breakdown of the demographic, and I was kind of interested to note that Many of the partners are from the Capital District area. Whenever I see a Sakatoga, anytime I'm in here doing the afternoon programming, I always note when there are local owners involved, because we like to root for the local owners in Sakatoga with many partners locally. But you have a breakdown. They're really from all around the country, and a nice breakdown also, male and female, as far as the partners involved.
Yeah, we've grown. Really, there are kind of three iterations of Sakatoga. The first was the funny side, or pre-funny side time, where it was just the five of us from Sackett's Harbor and myself. And then when we got funny side, then things blew up for a bit, and we had more. And it really wasn't until Tiz the Law came along and his success that we really expanded a lot. And now we're up to 11 horses, which for us is more than we've ever had. And we said, let's try and keep it going. We really like the New York bred program. Other than two Tiz the Law horses that we have that are Kentucky breds, we have all New York breds.
I'm up at Saratoga, obviously, all summer long, and it's a lot of fun to kind of watch partnerships like your group. When a big partnership has a horse in the race, they're all out in the paddock, and they've spent some time in the mornings, and then a lot of times you get the group will watch on that big TV on the bottom floor of the clubhouse, or what used to be the clubhouse, and then hopefully they head out to the winner's circle. Talk about the partnership experience.
Well, we, first of all, really tell everybody that, you're not making a financial investment to try and make money, that we're in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
And I think that, that has to be made clear to people. But we do a lot of different things. We have an event every winter down at Gulfstream, the day before the Fountain of Youth. We have events throughout the Saratoga meet, and it is an experience for people. There's a lot of camaraderie, and when we race, we stop over to Ciro's afterwards, win, lose, or nah, and it's fun. There's a lot of camaraderie. People have access to the backstretch, and the last 2 years, the horses have been here for 4 months, and next year is going to be the same thing. So anytime anybody wants to go to the backside and see their horses, see them train up here, see them at the barn, we can do that. So we really try to have a full experience for people, and we get a lot of accolades. The number of people that have been in other partnerships or may still be in other partnerships, but they give us high marks for our communication and for all of the events that we have.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. I always say when I have partnership people on the social scene, it's fun. You have events and you get to meet new people and go to the backstretch. And for folks who aren't familiar, you mentioned it. I think a lot of people think, the track is open early or beyond the race meet. Yes, they come up here in April, and they're just closing up here.
Yeah, we just shipped our horses out today.
Yeah, and there were a lot of Breeders' Cup horses just working the last few days up there. So there's a lot of activity up there for at least half of the year, and so I do think a lot of people don't realize that. There's also obviously activity during the racing season, and that includes the Fasig-Tipton sale. There's the main sale, and then over the last few years, the New York bred sale, which comes up the following weekend, has become very popular, and the two horses you're offering come out of that sale this year. Let's talk a little bit about the two horses. One by Constitution. Constitution has become a very notable sire out of the mare Mary Meadow. She produced Hoosier, who was a multiple stakes winner. So the Constitution filly looks very intriguing to me.
Yeah, we're obviously very positive about Constitution because he's a sire of Tiz the Law, and it's a $110,000 stud fee in Kentucky, and has stayed at that for a number of years, and he just keeps pumping out excellent racehorses. We're really excited about her. You mentioned the breeding, and I think with a filly, I mean, everybody dreams of what happened with us with Tiz the Law. You get the horse, you sell him for a lot of money, and you got a stallion. Chances of that are 1 in thousands, right? But if you get a good filly, and particularly a filly that can win graded stakes or a grade 1 stake, you've got such a tremendous residual value and a lot more mares are going to be able to produce some income at the end of their careers than the stallions ever do.
Yeah, and Mary Meadow herself was a nice stakes winner. When the horse was sold, I'm not sure about the 2-year-old, but I pulled up the page from the catalog, and then notes she was the dam of 4 fillies, including a 2-year-old. I don't think the 2-year-old had raced at that point, but 3 of them had raced. 3 of the 4 had raced, and they're all winners.
Yeah,
gotta love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now we were kind of surprised that she would be within our price range, kind of the top of our price range, but we're thrilled to have her. She is a beautiful looking filly, and she's down in Ocala learning her lessons. And if everything worked out right, we could see her at Saratoga next summer.
Nice. And folks have a chance to potentially participate in that if you're interested. The other one that is out there for offering by Honest Mischief out of the dam One Wise Cowgirl. She produced a nice New York bred winner of the Grade 1 Ballerina, Have You Gone Away? And as soon as I saw the name, I thought, and when I looked it up, sure enough, trained by Tom Morley. I remember that when Tom got a Grade 1. Tom and Maggie were quite happy there.
Right.
But obviously a very notable sibling with a Grade 1 up at Saratoga. Talk a little bit about the Honest Mischief, Colt.
Well, we're, always trying to find horses that are by stallions that stand in New York. And there's the very lucrative Stallion Series races. We've had some good fortune with that. Back in 2008, we won the Cab Calloway on the turf at Saratoga with a horse named Dock and Roll, who is in retirement out at Cabin Creek with
nice.
Those folks.
So people can go up and visit if they want.
We see him quite frequently. So that was our first stakes win at Saratoga. But the Stallion Series is great because it's lesser competition. You're not running against the horses that are sired by Into Mischief or Constitution that are New York breds. It's a limited crop, and we have hopes. We have another Honest Mischief colt named Wit Storm who ran third in his first race, and he's hopefully going to be in a race next week on Saturday, one of the auction races. And if he runs well there's a $500,000 race in early December.
Not bad.
For New York breds Stallion Series. So that is what we hope, and this horse will be eligible both on turf and on dirt. And there are probably a dozen races just for Stallion Series, both turf and dirt. And we think that that's a great opportunity to have success. We have one named Courtly Banker that ran second in 2 of the turf Stallion Series races, Central Banker colt. So we're bullish about that. Quite honestly, they're not that easy to find that meet all of our criteria, but Honest Mischief is doing very well as a stallion in the New York program, and we're excited about him. And based upon what Storm has shown us so far, I think we're looking forward to
Honest
Mischief.
Kind of caught my attention maybe the end of last year, where we had a couple of nice winners like in the same day or a couple of days apart, and I kind of jumped on then, and I was looking up last night. First out runners this year, debut runners this year, Honest Mischief, 33 first out runners, only 3 winners, but 7 seconds and 4 thirds. They tend to show talent early and get to the winner's circle fairly early. I mean, as I say, 10 exacta finishes in 33 starts for first-time starters. And he also produced a nice sacrosanct who went 4 for 5, won the first 4 starts of the career, including 3 New York bred stakes. So Honest Mischief, like I say, hit my radar a while ago. I think he's a really interesting New York bred.
I do too. And what's interesting is that they both turf and dirt. It doesn't matter what surface. We actually worked with Storm on a turf just to see a couple of days ago, and he handled it very well. So it's great if you got a horse that can go both ways. Doesn't happen that often in our experience, but those Stallion Series races, they're 125, 150,000, up to the big one at 500.
Yeah, that's not bad
No.
to jump in the pool for 500K. So we'll be looking for Wit Storm and maybe coming up for these two. Oh, obviously both unnamed. How do you name your horses?
Well, we do have a name for the colt.
Okay.
Honest One.
Oh, I like that.
WON.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
play
yeah.
on One Wise
Yeah, yeah,
Cowgirl. So we just got that approved in the last few days by the Jockey Club, and we don't have a name for the Constitution filly yet, but that'll be coming in probably the next week or so.
How do you come up with the names?
We try to have some kind of a connection between the sire
Play on
and
the
dam.
sire and the man.
Yeah, that's usually what we do, and it's kind of fun to do it. It can be challenging. We just had we bought an Epicenter colt this year, and trying to figure out how to get that one named was a challenge. But we ended up it was out of a horse that had Dancer in it, and so we ended up Epic Dancer is the name of that one.
I do like Honest One. That's
Yeah.
very good. So there are a couple of horses that are being offered if folks are interested. Couple of ways that folks can get more information. I put up a graphic that has the website address, Sakatoga.com. You can visit that, and obviously there's contact information there. But we have an event coming up right here at the Clubhouse Racebook, coming up on Wednesday, November 12th, right here, Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. We will continue to alert you to that. But that's going to be a kind of a meet and greet where people can get more info there too.
Yes, we'll be here. We'll be welcoming people to let them know more about Sakatoga. Rachel Dunn, who's my communications director and marketing person, she'll be here. We'll have materials. We're going to have food and drinks, and just talk and meet people. And if they have interest, we'll be able to provide them information about how they could get involved in Sakatoga.
Sounds like fun. So again, we'll alert people as we move closer to that, but it's going to be Wednesday, November 12th, right here, Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. And Jack, before I let you go, we've alluded to it a couple of times, but I can't let you go without talking about your relationship with Barkley and Robin. Barkley Tagg, your longtime trainer.
Yeah, we've, that was the best thing that happened. Along with my infamous friend Gus Williams back in the day, we weren't doing any good with our initial trainer, and decided, well, we need to make a change. And I made 3 phone calls, and Barkley answered, and we had 2 horses that we moved over to his barn. And as they say, the rest is history. Once we got Funny Side, and I've had people say, well, how come you're still at Barkley Tagg? I say, guy wins the Kentucky Derby for you. Why would you go anywhere else? And so we're still there. And then he gets Fizzle.
Yeah.
So how could you not be there?
No, it's been an incredible run for you guys. As they say, a partnership of your size, to have a couple of horses like that. And again, to be plugging along year in and year out with horses like Wit Storm, and we'll be watching for that one over the next couple of weeks as well. And hopefully next summer to see the 2 we're talking about this morning as well, that maybe you can participate in if you have some interest. Again, you can visit Sakatoga.com for a little more info. But Jack, we appreciate the visit this morning and updating us a little history of Sakatoga, a little review, a little preview. Hopefully the future holds some great events as well, and I expect it will. But we appreciate the visit this morning.
It's great. Thank you, as always.
Travel safe to the Breeders' Cup. Make some money.
Yeah, we'll try.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, a little recap of some of the stakes action from yesterday. Stay tuned.
know the time is now. What you waiting for? The time is now. Hear us knocking at the door. The time is now. Do you want to give them more when the time is now? You've seen the rest now. You want the best when the time is now.
The 2025 Global Symposium on Racing. It's the premier networking event of the year. Connect with the who's who of racing. Collaborate face-to-face with key decision makers. Be a part of the international conversation. Discover the latest technology and innovation. Join us December 8th through 10th. Register at racingsymposium.com.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Again, thanks to Jack. That was a lot of fun. As I say, Saratoga sponsoring some of the programming here on the network for a while here, and part of that will be to promo the two offerings they have. I mean, if you're in the back of your mind, you're thinking, love to get it. You've been involved in partnerships before and want to jump in again, the two nice horses they have out there. And again, you can learn more at their website, or as I say, we will alert you more and more as we get closer. But coming up on November 12th, an event right here at the Racebook where you can meet Jack and learn more about the horses. Should be a lot of fun. But it was a fun conversation to get also a little background on Saratoga. Some of you already might have been familiar with that, but for folks who aren't, and to go back and relive a little Funny Side, he was fabulous, as was Tiz the Law. But Funny Side, again, for a partnership of their size, and they were duking it out with Empire Maker for Bobby Frankel and these the little guys to get it done in the Derby like that in the Preakness. And it was just that was a lot of fun. So it's fun to reminisce a little bit about that as well. All right. We talked to New York Breds the first segment, and yesterday, big New York Bred Day down in New York. pretty much the whole card down at Belmont the Big A was New York bred stakes action. I pulled up a couple of them to take a look at. Obviously, in a moment, we'll look at the Empire Classic. But before that, I pulled up a replay. Oh, actually, in the order I had them, I did have the Empire Classic first. So why don't we, start with that one. The Empire Classic was the highlight of the day, $250,000. I used Iron Dome, who a nice New York bred 3-year-old, excuse me, that 2 starts before yesterday had won the Albany and won it in fine fashion. Then went out to Remington and ran second in the Oklahoma Derby behind Bracket Buster. Coming back to New York and facing New York breds, I had that one on top as really an up-and-comer on the New York bred scene as a 3-year-old. A little bit disappointing. Iron Dome winds up running last as the 9-5 favorite in here. Iron Dome's going to be the number 2. But was kind of duking it out early, and, the pace was just a little too fast for that one. Iron Dome, again, you're going to see a fade job here, unfortunately. That said, was duking it out with Bank Frenzy, who keeps on going here nicely. So Iron Dome disappoints a little bit, but Bank Frenzy, who I had right underneath as kind of a veteran on the New York bred stakes side of things, not only keeps going, but has to hold off a late run there, as you saw from Doc Sullivan. So Bank Frenzy, again, kind of a solid New York bred runner throughout the career, and now approaching $1 million in earnings. But not only guts it out early, duking it out with Iron Dome, but then has a real stretch duel late and holds on. Chart margin winds up to be a neck. Was the third choice in there, actually, at 2-1. You got $6 and change, but a nice performance. And Bank Frenzy, I say it all the time, horses to win half of their starts. That's pretty good. And yesterday put Bank Frenzy right at the 50% level. That was win 10 in start number 20 for LSU. Randy Sarf and his LSU stable getting it done there. Rudy Rodriguez training, Manny Franco on board. Iron Dome, again, a little bit disappointing. But then once started to go backwards, then you're just kind of protecting the horse. So does wind up 6th in the field. The horse is better than that, but we will see what's up next for Iron Dome. As I say, a little bit disappointing given the career so far. Moves into state bred stakes company against older and can't quite get it done the way we saw against the 3-year-olds in the Alabama a couple starts prior. But as I say, better than that, I would think. The fractions weren't blazing, so to fade like that is disappointing. But as I say, I think the horse is better than we saw there. I'll look for the return of Iron Dome and a rebound to a better effort. Also pulled up a replay of the Iroquois Fillies and Mares sprinting. And the reason I wanted to pull up this race, I wanted to see My Main Squeeze, who one of those horses I kind of mentioned in the first segment, really nice New York bred that can go out and face open company. And My Main Squeeze came into yesterday's race with 7 victories and 18 starts and $1.2 million in the bank. Had successfully faced open company, winning graded stakes races. A couple of starts prior to yesterday, won the Johnstone up at Saratoga against New York breds. Tried the Ballerina in the prior start and didn't fare well against grade 1 open company, but comes back in against state bred company yesterday, and My Main Squeeze went off at 4-5, and that one disappoints a little bit, running third. My Main Squeeze is the number 3 horse, just gets going a little too late. By the time that one got going, my top pick actually was number 8, Sterling Silver. That one gets going and gets the jump. You can see My Main Squeeze is running 4th now. Sterling Silver is going from 3rd to 2nd, and with the momentum, passes on by to win it. They were both kind of moving at the same pace late. Excuse me, but again, Sterling Silver got the jump. Sterling Silver going out for Bill Mott, Junior Alvarado on board. a week before they team up out at Del Mar with Sovereignty, but they get the stakes win yesterday in the Iroquois. Stonewall Star runs second at a price, and My Main Squeeze, again, just got going too late in there, but did wind up running third. But a nice win for Sterling Silver. Again, I liked Sterling Silver in there yesterday, who was coming out of a third against Open Company in the Gallant Bloom, but had a string of nice races in State-Bred Stakes Company. Adds another State-Bred Stakes race yesterday with the $200,000 Iroquois in the bank. All right, let's go over to Keeneland yesterday. It was closing day at Keeneland. We'll take a look at some of their stakes action. Scratch-reduced field in the Bowman Mill. It was originally a field of 7, scratched down to a field of 4, unfortunately. But I scratched into Gallivant, who does wind up getting it done here as the third choice in a field of 4, but does not look like the third choice. You'll see Gallivant come down the stretch and open it up. Gallivant's the number 6 horse. Luan Machado on board. Had Jeremy Plank on yesterday. Jeremy also liked Gallivant. Actually, Jeremy might have liked Hartley a little bit, as did I. I said before I handicapped the race, because I scratched into Gallivant, I was kind of going back and forth as I handicapped yesterday during the afternoon, but looked down at the odds. And as I looked at the odds, I believe the horse was 5-2 or 7-2 maybe. And I said, well, you know what, the odds now I do like Gallivant because I thought it was, a field you could make cases for a number of them being lightly raced. This is typical in 2025 with 2-year-old stakes late in the season. Gallivant and Hartley both coming out of debut victories. But at the odds, when we talked about it on this show, I said, yeah, I'll stick with Gallivant. And Gallivant gets it done, although it went down to 2-1. But again, was the third choice, excuse me, in a field of 4. So Gallivant, $6.72. Win number 1 in start number 2 actually came in as a maiden, had run third in his career debut, but by Into Mischief, owned by Ellen J. Foxwoods, Ben Colebrook, and again, Luan Machado getting it done in there at a little bit of value, given it was a 4-horse field, certainly. Also on the card yesterday at Keeneland, again on their closing day, the Bryan Station. 3-year-olds on the turf. Again, that subdivision I like quite a bit. I like Final Gambit in here, and I want to say the betting public used that one quite a bit as well. Went off as the second choice. Went off as the second choice there at 5-1. I had Troubleshooting right underneath. Troubleshooting went off as the favorite, but kind of a lukewarm favorite at 7-2. But it is Troubleshooting getting it done, and it's kind of a ding-dong battle. Tenacious Leader runs second. So it's number 4, Troubleshooting with the win. Number 8, Tenacious Leader, who lately raced for Todd Pletcher and John Velasquez on board. Took a little bit of action at 7-1, and again, just winds up getting beaten by a neck. Giacoso runs third. But again, Velasquez, you can see coming with the number 8 horse, almost adds another stakes victory to a phenomenal Keeneland season. But Troubleshooting holds on. Tyler Gaffalione on board for Greg Foley. Foley was kind of talking after the race, saying, with the Breeders' Cup coming east next year, they may have a schedule planned out to get to the Breeders' Cup with Troubleshooting next year. And what we've seen so far, 4 wins in 10 starts, 3 seconds. Coming out of a Grade 1 victory, the Franklin Simpson over at Kentucky Downs, now as the Grade 3 Bryan Station at Keeneland. Troubleshooting will be certainly a turfer, a nice turfer, you would think, to watch going forward in there. Kind of notable, Jeremy Plank yesterday when he was on mentioned how good the Not This Times were on the turf at Keeneland this season, and noted that I hadn't picked up on it, but 7 of the 12 horses in the race were by not this time. 7 of the 12 horses in the Bryan Station were by not this time. And it was a sire superfecta, not this time. Sired horses ran 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Bryan Station yesterday, which is fairly remarkable, I would think, in the history of the game kind of a situation. The Fayette, I had it labeled as a competitive race. I took a little pop with Bracket Buster coming out of the win in the Oklahoma Derby. A second, well-beaten second in the Travers. And I said yesterday I was in the winner's circle, and the connections were very happy at 17-1. They ran second to Sovereignty, but it was a nice performance. I mean, Sovereignty was a monster that day, so to get up and run a good second at a long price, and then follows it up with the Oklahoma Derby, 2 triple-digit buyers. So I tilted towards Bracket Buster. Bracket Buster is going to be the number 3 here and winds up 4th. The favorite was Gosker, another 3-year-old facing older, coming out of a 6th in the Pennsylvania Derby, but was second in the Haskell, second in the Preakness. Gosker, kind of surprisingly to me, went off as the 8-5 favorite. Gosker, the number 10, runs 3rd. Hit Show, Rattle and Roll, both were interesting to me. I had Hit Show in the mix. Rattle and Roll I've used throughout the career at times. I didn't use him yesterday, but it is number 11, Hit Show, getting it done. Rattle and Roll, the number 6, runs 2nd. Gosker 3rd. Bracket Buster 4th. So some logical players in there. But Hit Show gets it done. And I suppose, it was coming out of the last 3 races were a little bit of a head scratcher. You go back 4 starts, and this horse won the Dubai World Cup this year. 4 starts back in April. Then comes back in June in the Stephen Foster and runs 5th. Goes to Mountaineer and wins the Governor's Cup there, and then comes back to Churchill and runs 4th in the Lucas Classic. So it was hard to know exactly what to do with that one. The betting public went to 7-2, so you got $9.14. Which I suppose if you look and say, how did I get $19 on the Dubai Cup winner? You can make that case. But there were a couple of the Foster and the Lucas Classic were a little less compelling, perhaps. And so I think that's why he got the price. But again, given it was Brad Cox, Irad Ortiz, the Dubai Cup winner, I think you can make the case that, wow, that was a decent price. I had it down in the 4th spot. I will say, the 2 races I mentioned, the 2 less than stellar performances scared me away a little bit. I think the top 4 all ran decently. The 2 3-year-olds. Somebody mentioned on Twitter, I think it was Travis Stone, which I think is a legitimate point. But I'll have a but. He said, it seems like the 3-year-olds, when facing older, maybe haven't performed as well as hoped for. Gosker went off as the favorite. Bracket Buster was also a short price, and they ran 3rd and 4th behind Hit Show and Rattle and Roll. And so the implication was, what does that mean for next week with Sovereignty and journalism and whatnot? I will say, I think it was a fun 3-year-old class this year. I think they kind of got better as the year progressed, although as compared to last year's 3-year-olds, I think even the early season was a little more competitive talent-wise. That said, for me, I think the top 3 kind of stand out, and I would even say the top 2, and then I might even parse it to the top 1. But I think Sovereignty, clearly the head of the class, and I think by a wide margin, separating him when you get down to the 4th, because I think it's Sovereignty, Journalism, and Baeza. I think Sovereignty is clearly better than Journalism, Baeza. I think those 2 are maybe a little more evenly matched, perhaps, but I think those 2 are separated from the rest of the class. So I think at the top of the class, it was very good. I think you go further down, it was fun, and it was a competitive 3-year-old season. But I don't know whether I'm looking at races like this and laying that on Sovereignty. We'll see how that works out next week. But as I say, to me, he's clearly better than the rest of the class, so to speak. Wanted to look at one more because, again, I always like the 3-year-olds on turf, and they had a nice graded stake out in Southern California yesterday. 3-year-olds on turf in the Twilight Derby, Grade 2 event, $200,000 up for grabs. mile and eighth on the grass. Excuse me. It's only a field of 5 in here, but I also wanted to show it because Graham Motion ships test score out, and test score will get it done at 3 to 5. And I wanted to show a little test score because this one was the Saratoga winner this year. Always a kind of a homer, as test score gets it done on July 4th in the Belmont Derby. Subsequently third in the Saratoga Derby early in August, and then went down to try the, I think, $1 million Nashville Derby, if I'm not mistaken. A big purse, I know. Ran fourth there at Kentucky Downs in the most recent start, but gets back to his winning ways after adding the blinkers for this start yesterday. As you can see, the chart margin at length and a half went off as the 3 to 5 favorite with the blinkers on for the first time for Graham Motion. Win number 4 and start number 11. 4 wins, 3 seconds, 2 thirds, well over $1 million in earnings. So this is a nice little 3-year-old for Graham Motion, 3-year-old turfer for Graham Motion. Again, you can put $1 million in the bank already. Follow-up was a follow-up article. They mentioned the next possible start might be the Grade 1 Hollywood Derby at Del Mar the end of November, mile and eighth on the turf. But again, Grade 1 event out in Southern California. Given what he looked like yesterday, why not? And that was, again, maybe that will be the next start. All right, before I wrap it up, just wanted to pull up, again, yesterday wound up the action at Keeneland. So I wanted to look at trainer and jockey stats, but do note that today, the first day of the late fall meet down at Churchill, and it's Stars of Tomorrow or Future Star. It's a 2-year-old card with some really fun, good-looking races this afternoon at Churchill. We'll have that a little bit later on OTB Live. But it was interesting coming into the final day yesterday, particularly on the trainer side of things. Jockey battle was pretty much settled before we got into yesterday, and it was Irad Ortiz with 25 winners. Tyler Gaffleone second with 17. Jose Ortiz with 16. Luis Saez with 15. And John Velasquez with 13. But as I said, of his yesterday, of his 13 wins, 7 of those were stakes races. And one was at $50. One was at $70. A couple at $20. So less than half the starts of Irad Ortiz, with 57 starts. Again, you get a $70 winner, $50 winner, a couple 20. The ROI from John Velasquez, I said it yesterday. I mean, there's no knocking what Irad did. It was a great meet, 25 wins, and led in money by a wide margin. But I wonder if they took a vote whether John Velasquez would be right up there for meet leader. You know, we vote for jockeys the end of the year, the Eclipse. But when it comes to meet titles, it's just the number of winners they have. But I wonder if folks sat down and took a vote, because it was just a phenomenal meet for John Velasquez with the limited number of starts. And Jeremy Plonk mentioned it yesterday. Last weekend, he didn't ride down there because he went back to New York. And he went to New York and won a stakes race at Belmont and Aqueduct. So it's just been a really great run of the whole year, back up at Saratoga as well. But boy, at Keeneland, John Velasquez really notable. But as I say, by a fairly substantial margin, Irad Ortiz, the meet leader. It came down to the last day, knocking heads, and Brad Cox with the win and hit show separates himself as the leading trainer. Brad Cox, 12 wins, Brendan Walsh and Steve Asmussen with 11 each. Then Kenny McPeak with 8 and Wesley Ward with 7. Down in 6th, it was Todd Pletcher with 6. Mark Cassie and Robbie Medina, each with 4. Cherie DeVoe with 3. But Brad Cox, as I say, ekes it out with the win in the stakes race by hit show. 1-win lead after the meet winds up, the fall meet. Always fun, Keeneland, spring and fall. Won a couple of the premier meets during the year at in North America. So, and boy, it was a tough meet, but if you called it right, if you played John Velasquez, you walked away all right at Keeneland. But as I say, we move out onto Churchill Downs this afternoon. And we'll look at Churchill this afternoon on OTB Live. Probably be back in an hour and a half or so to kick off OTB Live for a Sunday afternoon. We'll have some Churchill, some Belmont, a little Saratoga Harness, some Woodbine in the mix. So it should be a fun afternoon, certainly. Again, I want to thank Jack Knowlton for joining us a little bit earlier. A lot of fun conversation about Sakatoga with some memories. And as I say, a little review going back to the start of Sakatoga and the Funny Side days and whatnot, a little preview because they have some nice ones that are coming up as well. And perhaps you can participate as they have a couple up for offer, and you can find more information at sakatoga.com. All right, Seth Merrill wrapping it up for Racing Across America for Sunday morning. But as I say, we'll be back in about an hour and a half or so with OTB Live for a Sunday afternoon. See you then.
Racing Across America is sponsored by Sakatoga Stable, home of Funny Side and Tis the Law.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Haven't signed up for a Capital OTB account yet? Now's the time to take advantage of the sign-up bonus. Open up a new account with $200 or more, bet $400 by the end of the month, and receive a bonus $200 into your account. Plus, you can take advantage of everything an OTB account has to offer. Wagering from any device, live streaming, racing info, past performances, online promotions, and more. Sign up today and take advantage of the new account bonus. Details at capitalotb.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
You know the time is now. What you waiting for? The time is now. Hear us knocking at the door. The time is now. Do you want to give them more when the time is now? You've seen the rest now. You want the best when the time is now.
The 2025 Global Symposium on Racing. It's the premier networking event of the year. Connect with the who's who of racing. Collaborate face-to-face with key decision makers. Be a part of the international conversation. Discover the latest technology and innovation. Join us December 8th through 10th. Register at racingsymposium.com.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to League Lockdown, brought to you by Capital OTB. I'm your host, Anthony Probst, and we're going to be again previewing this Sunday's NFL lineup. First, again, got to look back at Thursday night, Chargers-Vikings. In a dominantly spectacular fashion, Justin Herbert in the Chargers won over the Minnesota Vikings 37-10. So let's look at 1 o'clock, starting with the Dolphins-Falcons, Bears and Ravens, Jets-Bengals, Bills-Panthers, 49ers-Texans, Browns-Patriots, and the Giants and the Eagles. Taking the 4 o'clock spot, we got the Bucks and the Saints, the Titans and the Colts, and the Cowboys and the Broncos. Then for Sunday Night Football, we got the Packers against the Steelers. And then this week, we only have one game for Monday Night Football. We got the Commanders and the Chiefs. So, injury-wise, Lamar Jackson, he was limited in all practice this week. He was full on Friday, and he should be making his long-awaited return. But there is some possibility, indication that, per yesterday, that we'll see. John Harbaugh is pretty vague in the media when it comes to answering these types of questions. So he should be back for today's game on Sunday. Monday night's game, Commanders, their QB1, Jaden Daniels, has already been ruled out. So Marcus Mariota, their backup, will be making his third start of the season for Washington. And then on Friday, they already ruled him out. Panthers QB Bryce Young, he didn't practice all week, so Andy Dalton is set to make his start against the Bills. Then cornerback Sauce Gardner and wide receiver Garrett Wilson have been ruled out also on Friday for the Jets matchup against the Bengals. Then on Friday, the Eagles did list A.J. Brown, their wide receiver, out for this game against the Giants. And 49ers, they have ruled both Brock Purdy and Rick Parasol out. So Mac Jones will be making his start yet again. Nico Collins, Texans wide receiver, he'll be out of this game against the 49ers, so there's some pretty good balance there, actually. And then Kirk Cousins is highly likely to start the game against for the Falcons against the Dolphins due to Michael Penix's bone bruise in his knee. And I know that's going to be some issues there because Kirk Cousins, little divisive, but I gotta talk games of the weekend. And I know I had the jersey on last week. I had the Ray Lewis jersey on, so you know where my mindset and my biases lead. But the Bears and Ravens is definitely going to be the game of the weekend that I'm going to start with, only because with us coming fresh out of the bye week and being on a 4-game losing streak, I know the Ravens are going to be on their high horse trying to fix it, turn this season around, and with Lamar Jackson, finally, I know it's going to happen, make his return. And with the defense holding the Rams to 17 the week prior, I definitely think that the Ravens are going to pull up and show out and get this back half of the season started off right. That's just me there. And then Commanders Chiefs. Now, the reason why I bring this one up is because not only, like I said, is Jaden Daniels ruled out and Marcus Mariota making his start. Last week, the Chiefs had a spectacularly dominant performance over the Vegas Raiders, 31-0. So is the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid era and style of football finally back? Because it's been like a roller coaster up and down this season now, with the beginning half of the season getting off to a slow start, with them being 4-3 now coming into this week. I think that 4-3, 3-3, whatever the record may be, it doesn't matter. I think Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce football, especially with them getting Rashee Rice back and having Travis Hunter, I think that we're going to see a dominantly spectacular football game. And now, the one that is going to, again, like I did last week, is going to shock a lot of people, the Giants and the Eagles. And the reason why this one will be a highlight game of the weekend for two reasons. One, 2 weeks ago, the Giants pulled off the upset. The Giants, Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterboo, rookies, pulled off the upset against the Super Bowl MVP Eagles. And that's a division rival right there. But what also adds a little bit of more sauce to the pan is because, like I said, A.J. Brown is out. A.J. Brown, their wide receiver 1, has been listed out. And with Jalen Hurts, doing this and Saquon getting limited in yards, the Eagles have found ways to make consistent wins, but offensively, they haven't been consistent. They've had some close calls these past few weeks, and only but what, 2 weeks ago, they lost to the Giants and then lost to the Broncos prior, and then made a narrow escape last week against the Vikings. We're going to have to see how well the Giants can actually hold up against this young offense, or, excuse me, how well this Eagles defense can hold up against this young offense, and if the Eagles offense can actually pull it off, like I said, without A.J. Brown. But with all that being said, before I let you go, we got to look at the promos. Breeders' Cup Bankroll, that is still open. Steve Bick, if you go to capitalotb.com, it's a $1,500 bankroll. And then this week coming up on Wednesday, we also have the Breeders' Cup Seminar. It's on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, right here at the Clubhouse Racebook. And like me right now here, you can come down to our partner and food vendor, Black Bear, watch all the NFL action every Sunday, get some food, watch football, watch the horses. It's the best place to do it right here, Capital OTB, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for watching once again. I've been Anthony Probst, and like I say every time, don't forget to stay locked in.
Racing Across America is sponsored by Sakatoga Stable, home of Funny Side and Tiz the Law. Be part of Sakatoga's next great story with ownership opportunities now available in our yearlings. Get on the bus at sakatoga.com.
We'd like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine open now through December, featuring great racing, including the King's Plate coming up in August, Turf Champions Day with the Woodbine Mile in September, and much, much more. Woodbine Racing, great racing north of the border.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.